All right, everybody, let's grab a seat. Welcome to the third installment of the Pictures Up panel series here. So first off, as always, I want to thank our sponsors, the Tulsa Film Collective, the Tulsa Artist Fellowship, Tulsa FMAC, Citizens of the Sound, Mr. Will Rutherford right here, Ian Upton, the lowly human that's filming us here today, Crazy Eagle Media, and then Tiffany Tavares, our wonderful matchmaker who's helping make all this happen. So I'm Dylan Brodie, producer, production manager around Tulsa here, but that's not important. What's important here are the wonderful people that are next to me here. So first off, can you introduce yourself and then tell me a little bit about your job, please?
I'm Tafv Sampson. I am a set decorator, and my job is to be in collaboration with the production designer and basically design and conceptualize and set the tone for the overall show or the film that we're doing.
Okay, Brandon. So before you introduce yourself, this is kind of the production design in general. We have people that are all essentially under the production design umbrella. When you introduce yourself, kind of give an overview of production design, not just your job here, since it encompasses all the lovely humans here. Thank you, sir.
Of course, a slightly more challenging question for me. No, I'm Brandon Tonner-Connolly. I'm the production designer on the current show. And so production design really basically you kind of break down the script and you work with the director and the DP to figure out what the visual world of the project should be. And that encompasses everything from the locations to the sets to, the set decoration to the props, all those elements. And so you kind of figure out what that should be and conceive of it in collaboration with those folks. And then after that, you're sort of budgeting and you're sort of, hiring the incredibly talented team who makes all those things happen. And then you're kind of, overseeing that and making sure that all of that kind of gets realized and kind of, comes through on screen and does that. Which is, that's like a technical definition of it. I think I talked to Jack Fisk once, famous production designer who did Killers of the Flower Moon and, Badlands and a bunch of other things. And asking him what he does for his job, he said, production design is problem solving. I'm a problem solver. So it's kind of about that also, just figuring out what the issues are and how to kind of, get it so that the visual world, matches what the director and what you and the DP have originally conceived of in that way. So
textbook. Crushed it. Thank you, sir.
I'm Neosha. I'm the props buyer. And I technically kind of have a hybrid version of that where I'm the props buyer before we start the show. So like in production, which I'm helping source and buy and find the props that the actors will use, which is anything they touch. But then once we start production, I kind of hop on to the props assistant, which is helping Joe here run everything on set.
Hi, I'm Joe. I've never held a microphone, so that's kind of weird. Like she said, we're the props department. We handle anything an actor touches, and then tracking that throughout the story for the entirety of the piece. Like you'll shoot this day, we might break up into like weeks apart to film, so you just keep track of what they touch and where they touch it and how they touch it. Yeah.
Perfect. And also, you got to love an actor that actually remembers where they left things, too.
Yeah, or if they have bones in their hands and can hold things. It's tough sometimes.
Yeah, true.
It's crazy.
And one of our signature questions here is, tell us your origin story. So we'll start with you, Tafv, go down the line here. Talk about the beginnings, how you came to be part of this world.
Is it a long origin story or a short?
Not like how you were born, but,
Creator
Yes.
decided that I was going to come down. Okay, short and condensed version. I didn't get into college, guys. And so I decided to apply for an internship instead. I was in Oregon at the time, and I wanted to try film out. And so I applied to be an intern for a Warner Brothers film happening that summer. It's called Arthur. It was a Russell Brand, terrible movie, guys. But I got the internship, and I was basically going to start in like 3 months when summer happened. I got a call like 3 weeks later saying that they had actually gotten rid of their internship program for legal reasons, but there was an opening in the art department as a PA. And did I want it? And I said, absolutely. I don't know what a PA is, but like sign me up. And they said, but you have to start on Thursday. And it was like a Monday. And I lived in Portland, Oregon at the time. So I basically got rid of my apartment. I just moved into my first apartment, terminated my lease, packed everything up, gave a bunch of stuff to my parents, and I came to New York, and essentially I never came back. I always planned on coming back. And then after that, I did 3 features, 1 TV show as an art PA through the whole thing. After that, I didn't really want to get in the union yet, so I did fashion for 10 years, commercials, music videos, editorial. And then I got the call to come do Red Sox in 2021. And that was my first time back in film since I had left film in like 2012 or something. And I originally said no because I was like, I don't even remember how to do film. I don't feel qualified to like do this job, and it was an away job. But once I found out more about it and that it was taking place in Okmulgee, and Okmulgee is special to me because my dad was born and raised there, so I said yes, and I came, and I've been working with this team ever since. So. This is me and Dylan's 6th time in production together.
It was really the old abandoned Macy's that you got to work in. That
I
really
know, it was so cool.
Yeah.
Rollerblading in the Macy's, yeah. So that's that's the sped up version.
That was the perfect length.
Okay,
Thank you so
great.
much, Brandon.
You did say no several times for the record also.
Actually like 3 times. It was like the height of COVID. I don't know. I said no a couple times, and I said yes. Best decision of my life.
No, so I got into it. I grew up always loving movies, kind of always loving film, and I always wanted to do something in that, but I had no idea what. And nobody in my family did anything creative or had any kind of insight into it. I grew up in like a small town in New Jersey, and I think the only like brush with any kind of like cinema film was like one time they filmed this Meryl Streep movie like a couple blocks down, and like that was the closest that like anybody knew to the industry or to getting into it. Yeah, so I went to school for film theory and film criticism, and I kind of thought that I would end up making like esoteric short documentaries that nobody ever saw or cared about, like that, and was relatively happy with that. But got out of school, and a friend asked if I would cover them one day as a PA in a music video shoot, and I said, sure, sounds kind of lame, but I'll do it. And got there and met the art director, and I was like, what's an art director? They kind of explained it to me, and I kind of realized that like, the mixture of the research that it takes to understand these things and like to understand different spaces and kind of different places, and then to just be able to visually help to tell the story and get into that was kind of like a great fit. And they took me under their wing and brought me into the next couple jobs, aka I did a lot of free work for them in terms of that. And then they said, I'm going to design a feature. Do you want to prop master it? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Like, what's a prop master? But I'll 100% do it. And started prop mastering and just loved that. Loved being able to tell the story through like all the different objects and through like all the different kind of character details like that. And then just started working my way towards set decorating, and then working my way towards kind of designing, the whole world of the project, and got into it that way. Yeah.
Neosha?
I jumped around a lot just in childhood, I guess, and pre-college life with photography and fine art and just acting, like all of it. Just I liked the whole realm of creativity. So for college, I went to an art school that kind of allowed for a lot of creative exploration and expression. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I film was always, I guess, a pursuit in a way. But so I had a background in all that, I guess. And then when I graduated, it was during May 2020, so the height of COVID. So I came home here, and in like August, I think, I got a call from Sterler, and he was like, you doing anything? Do you want to work on this little project I have? And I was like, yeah, sure, little project. Love little projects. And it turned out to be Res Dogs. So that was kind of my like splash into film. So it was honestly just a very lucky, a really lucky opportunity, and I love it.
And the rest is history, as they say. Joe?
I interned on a direct-to-DVD horror movie after college, showing my age. Those don't exist anymore. And I was like a set PA, base camp PA. And from there, just networked, got into the office. Then I moved into locations. Then I met my boss, who's a prop master, Bo, on Res Dogs. And I've been working with him for like, I don't know, close to 10 years now. So network. That's all I can tell you.
That's an amazing note. I just recently did a rewatch of True Detective on season 1, and every time I saw Joe Hagg's name pop up as production secretary, yes, I got just like such a grin on my face. So like the origin doesn't matter. Like it doesn't, you won't just like immediately land as director of photography. So it's great to just race through the ranks. And that's one thing I like to kind of chat about as well here. For the people that are interested in moving up through the industry here, any real tips on like making connections and fostering relationships in the industry in terms of just, you don't necessarily have to have an upward trajectory, but just making sure that you're staying on people's radars and moving forward. Anyone want to kick us off?
We don't have to stay in this order, guys.
This is a comfortable order, though. This is good. Let's see. I guess I would say most importantly, just know Dylan Brodie. And like if you
All right,
buy him a beer, if you see him out, buy
I'm
him
going to tattoo my email on my forehead.
Good things will happen. Yeah, if you know Dylan Brodie. Yeah, I think for me, it's like it's kind of about like reaching out to people also. Like if it seems like, now like people in this series or just people around, or even if you just look up on projects that you're a fan of and are looking up on IMDb, like, oh, who is the designer of this, or who is the DP, or who is, most of those people have have an email around, and you can just reach out to them and say, oh, I'm actually a big fan of your work in this. And if you ever were considering, wanting somebody to, jump on or to do this, or even if you were considering having a cup of coffee or having a Zoom session or something like that, I feel like it's, those sorts of things work out with surprising regularity, where I feel like when I get emails or resumes or things sent to me, even if I'm not hiring somebody at that moment, I put them in a file folder so that, in the future, I can look back and say, oh, great, these people kind of contacted me. Or if somebody else I know is saying, oh, do you have recommendations for people in Tulsa? I can say, oh, yeah, these people emailed me and they seem great. So I think just, that first reach out can seem challenging or can seem intimidating, but it's also like it often kind of works out in some way like that. So.
I'm glad we're actually recording these. And I say it a lot. It's always a no if you don't try. So always remember that, everybody.
I did the same thing in New York. There was a photographer I really, really wanted to work with after I'd been in fashion for about 5 years. And I was like, I'm just going to email them. I don't know. And offer to take them out for coffee. I asked her if I could take her out for coffee. She immediately said yes. And I ended up being her photo assistant for like a year and a half and loved her. And she's become like a godmother to me. And yeah, she's fantastic. But in terms of this place in Tulsa, I've sort of only been working with this team exclusively, more or less, for the past 4 years. But sort of the beauty of that is like we all started like pretty small in terms of like our thinking and the things we could do together. And now, we did Fancy Dance, and that was a no budget movie in like 110 degrees Oklahoma summer. And then it got bought by Apple. And so now Erica has all these amazing opportunities and wants to take us with her and wherever in the world that is. And, our friends are getting these incredible offers because we've done such amazing work the past couple of years. And so just being able to foster those relationships with each other and work really hard for each other, it feels like it's really paying off. And I do feel like I only want to work with our friends now for the rest of my life. I'm kind of snobby now in terms of the things I will take and not take.
It's really the dream.
I've been getting other offers. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm going to rest in between projects with Sterling and you guys.
Well, thank you. And so last week we did the hair and makeup panel. And then a lot of the discussion, which is vitally important to understand, is that the talent is your project, basically. Like they're on screen, they're the ones that people are wanting to watch. Hopefully they want to listen to the story, but ultimately they're the ones that are in every single frame. And so to talk to our props department here, Neosha and Joe, can you tell us about how you interact with talent for people that are interested in this industry?
The easiest note I can give you about talent or your director or your DP is just read the room. Some actors, they're just about their dialogue and their emotional beats, and it's kind of up to you to guide whatever they're going to have to physically do, whether it's like writing, eating, smoking, depending on the shot. And you just kind of, some are very into the props and some are just like, what are you talking about? Same thing with your director. Some directors are only into like the dialogue, the emotional beats. Some are only into the frame. Some are very tactile and meticulous about what they have. And it's just kind of a very quickly figure out what their strong points are, what they like, what they don't like. And each one's different. Every single cast member, every director. And in TV, that's really cool because you get a new director like every 2 to 3 weeks, and it's like a whole new world,
I think reading the room is the perfect way to phrase that, but also just reading people, which I guess is the same thing. But your job ultimately, or part of your job, is to interact with this actor and show them how to use this prop if they don't know. So if it's a weird prop that they're like, you need to come in and be like, this is the button you push and you hold it like this and this, and especially if it's like really niche or like specific to something, you have to have that conversation with them so that they're using it right. But of course, in the chaos of set and you've got 5 minutes and you've got that actor has hair and makeup touching them and somebody else touching them and costumes fiddling with, and of course it's overwhelming because they want to be getting into character and you're trying to read when you come in and how to not upset them sounds dramatic, but kind of that point, like you're trying to
keep their process as like isolated as possible.
Because you want them to do a fantastic job with their work too. So you're trying to like collaborate here and be like, reading the person.
And also, like the other day, I had an actor who had to make mimosas and cry, had to make margaritas in a blender like 10 minutes later. Then they had to go outside, chain smoke, throw things. It is just like something new every 10 minutes for this person. And they're like a NASCAR race car pulling over, 100 people attack them, and then they get back in the driver's lane. So, yeah.
And especially if it's an emotional scene where they're required to cry every take and retake and retake, and then they have people rushing up and touching and doing this, like you're just trying to be sensitive to them to help them achieve their best performance as well.
Yeah. And like last night we had a scene with a lot of complicated props on a table, and you gauge when you cut, your director's going to go in for notes. You don't want to be in their eye line while that's happening. When you have your chance, you slip in and be like a ninja, as quiet as possible, like a shadow. It's the best way I could put it.
Sort of similarly, we always say that we're also dressing the set for the actor, and not only for like to hit the beats that we need to and what the director wants and the refs, but you're really building this world for the actor to get in character. And so we're always doing a room 360 or a place 360, even if on a scout we're like, we're only going to see this corner. And we had done this on Fancy Dance where we had an emotional scene with Lily Gladstone in a bedroom. And we're like, we're only going to see like her like straight on sitting on a bed crying. But we like, as an art department, set tech department, we knew that like she was going to have to be doing this crying scene over and over. We're like, well, how can we dress what's right behind the camera that she's looking at that can spark an emotion in her? And so we're like trying to be very conscious of like how the actor is moving through that scene, even if you're not catching what we're actually creating on set. Like it's read by the actor, read by the director, and like we set the emotion for the room in that way. And so I feel like it's a lot of nuanced work.
No, it's true. I feel like along that theme, like we are always thinking about creating the entire world, and the whole idea is like you're creating this space for the actors and for the director and for everybody to kind of come together and make this art in that space. So you even if you've never talked about them opening the drawer, you want them to be able to open the drawer and look in there and see something they didn't even know about their character or anything like that, or see something they hadn't previously thought of, or open the closet and see the clothes that make sense and see all these details. So you're kind of trying to build this whole really rich world, just like full of even more details than like the camera could possibly ever see, just for like the people who are actually going to be physically in the space, like coming together to create that artwork. It's
true. You also never know what an actor is going to end up doing or what Sterling's going to be like. Go try that. Open all the drawers in the bureau. They can't be empty. So you have to think about all those details you might never see.
I have a fun little note with Ethan Hawke, who we're working with right now. But one of the he's really good about props and the way that the littlest thing will help his actor tell this story. And so we have a whole little bin basically called Ethan Pocket Stuff, and he really likes this story that like he's like, what if this scene, I feel like I'm kind of I've got something on my mind, like what if I have something, what if I have a toothpick, what if I have a comb I can pull out and I'm trying to impress it, what if I have like mints that I can be chewing on each time. So we have all these little random things that of course aren't scripted, but they help him get into character. And it's this fun little thing where we'll like sneak back and he's like, that was so cool that I did you see how I worked this prop into the scene? And we're like, yeah, wasn't that fun? And it really helps him like pull himself into this character. And of course it's so small in comparison to the whole world that is built. But it's really fun to see the actor like get excited, and you read that on screen, and it's all like the texture stuff. And he even was saying like, even if we don't see it, I like that you can see that there might be something in my pocket as a weird, chaotic character of a man. Like, what's in my pocket,
His collaboration with a little hand scratcher was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, there was this little back scratcher that he was using at one point. And we were like, oh, okay.
Where did he even find?
And to like what you guys do, like we have specific props on the page. And then you always want to have more options, but they will grab anything in the room. Even if on the scout, it's like, we're only going to look this way. They could get inspired and turn the camera around. So just building a world is the best way to put it, I think. And having options that add to not just what's specific on the page, but like building a world just in case,
That's my favorite part, when after they shoot it, they're like, oh, and by the way, the actor really loved this thing and they picked it up and now it's a major prop in the scene, so we need to keep track of it. And I'm like, I'm sorry for that, but also I'm glad that.
And again, like with the back scratcher, that was set deck, but he picked it up and he was like, I really like this, and starts like using it. At one point he throws it and we're like, because if it breaks, you only have that one and you have to keep reshooting it. So he's like tossing it each time, and I'm like, behind the couch, or whatever we're shooting at.
But
I'm like,
the
please
props
don't break,
department always has every imaginable glue, every imaginable tape. Some actors, you hand them something and they're like, and let me try it. Bah, break it over their knee. So it's kind of like herding kittens or little kids.
Yeah.
You got to keep an eye on them because they'll break stuff.
And that's a big difference, I think, between like set deck and props, is we have to have like 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 of everything, because if something happens to it, if it gets lost, if the actor comes back and is like, I don't know where it is, and you're like, well,
I shattered my phone.
yeah, oops, here you go. And I'm like, we need this all day. Like, so you have to have 15 of everything. And yeah, if they pick up something from set deck, it's like, okay, we'll use it.
We do so much crossover in our departments. We do a lot of meetings with like, okay, this is the scene, but like this could be a prop, could be set deck, it's overlap, how we can collaborate with this. And so it's fun.
And there's just like, I know we talk about like collaborating and planning, but when you're on set, it is so fast. There's not that much time. So always be paying attention. It's hard. They're like 10 to 16 hour days, but you are like balls to the wall, fast shooting. Got to get the product delivered, So it's fun to like talk about all this collaboration and planning, but once you get into the trenches, it's nonstop like a bullet train.
And then
Love our jobs.
yes, we do.
So
We
much
are
fun.
crazy people that love our jobs. And then to follow up on collaboration, Brandon, I'll kick this off with you here. Can you talk about collaborating with the director of photography and the director to shape the overall look of the design in terms of like color theory and everything that you go through and the collaborative nature of that aspect?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, every project is a little bit different in that way, but, and it's different between like, episodic and features. I think features, you have a little bit more time in the beginning to like really kind of develop the concepts and get into it. And you're kind of prepping the whole thing in the beginning. Episodic, you're prepping a chunk of it and then you get into it and you're kind of prepping as you go along and shooting and doing all that stuff. So you go along with it. So, working with directors and DPs, for the most part, I'll kind of pull a lot of references. I'm a real kind of freak about the references. I love references. And so kind of put them all up in the art office after we kind of clear them with everybody. But for the most part, I kind of feel like they're the foundation of everything that we're going to do after that. And we're going to build off of those. So I'll pull a ton of references and put together a lookbook for, here are the ideas that I've kind of casually talked with the director about. And, here are some of my ideas and here are all these things coming together and what we've gleaned from the script. And so I'll have that together and then we'll just kind of start to talk about, the world together and start to look at the images and say, oh man, this radiator is awesome, or this sort of bed is awesome, or this, the blinds here are amazing, or like those kind of character details, picking apart those things and kind of getting into it. And sometimes you start kind of just larger instead and you're like, okay, so for this movie, like the color palette really wants to be, kind of thinking about these 3 colors. And then for these other sets, they're going to be these 3 colors instead. And getting into it from, a very large way. That way, but it's kind of a collaboration from the day that you start the job or the day when you first meet the director till, the very end, because you're constantly having these conversations and reevaluating. I did a movie called I Saw the TV Glow a couple of years ago, and that was something where I kept trying to figure out, a color scheme and kept trying to really pin things down and like say, okay, in the movie, there's like a TV show within the film. And you're like, okay, so for the TV show, the colors should be this. And for the actual movie, the color should be this. And it just kind of never kept lining up that cleanly. So it just became a matter of talking with the director every day, all the time about, okay, what about, this menu? What about this thing? What would this be? And
Yeah, that's something I actually was going to touch on later, is you're able to convey so much subtext just through your choices. And I Saw the TV Glow is a wonderful example of that. Can you speak about conveying subtext through your choices?
Oh yeah, well, I'm pleased that you think there is subtext in my choices. First of all, that's already a pretty good place to start from. So I Saw the TV Glow was a movie where the director kind of started off from a place of saying, okay, this is a movie about someone realizing. So the story of it is a horror film, and it's about two kids who are kind of obsessed with a TV show in the mid-90s, and they really bond over it. They're kind of outsiders otherwise, and the show gets canceled, and it's a really kind of traumatic thing for them. We flash forward in the future, and they come back and are kind of figuring out their lives in the wake of that, and are saying, they come to realize that their actual lives were the characters on the show, and their real life, as we think of it, is kind of just a projection of that. And I know it sounds strange and niche, and it is. But the director kind of said from the beginning, oh, but this is a story about, me realizing that I was trans, and about that it's really actually when you have that realization, this egg crack moment, then you're kind of going to think about, moving forward as a different person and kind of maybe even burying the other person who you thought of previously. So, they kind of articulated that very clearly to me. And then for that, it was like, okay, so when we're making color choices, should we be referencing any of these things? And there's kind of color choices initially in the film that kind of reference different points that refer to that also. And so, we were kind of trying to go along and just think about, the idea of identity and the idea of nostalgia also. So the idea of kind of bringing up this nostalgia from the 90s and bringing up, people who kind of grew up on VHS and grew up on those things. And so we made choices like, if there's a giant vending machine, it's going to be a Fruitopia vending machine. That's going to like be a callback for all, the people who kind of recognize that. And the colors are going to be in the pink and the purple and kind of the blue kind of spectrum for these kind of moments and things. So, so, again, I could go on about that for too long, and I probably already have. But those are kind of some of the things where, you're talking with the director about, but this is what the subtext of the story is, and let's let that come out in like our visual choices also. We want to kind of evoke this nostalgia, and we want to kind of suggest this other story, or suggest this identity portion of it, and make that, so.
Well, thank you so much for that. And now, Tafv, Brandon, I want to touch on a subject like people who are fans of Reservation Dogs probably saw the Dear Lady flashback episode and may have enjoyed it, but they didn't realize just the sheer hell the crew went through on that. And the hardest part was on your department there. So tell us about overcoming adversity. The adversity is our set deck warehouse burned down. And then what led eventually the journey to where that episode ended up with the ADG Awards?
I can share this.
Yeah, please.
Okay, well, first of all, this episode, even though normally episodically we're prepping sort of things like as they're coming in episodes and blocks and as scripts are coming to us, but we knew that episode was going to be coming the day we started prep in the office, and we're like, we need to start prepping this episode now. And we've never done that before with something so far down the line in terms of research and talking to people. We brought on a consultant, this author who had traveled the North Dakotas and had recorded people's stories that had been in boarding schools or their parents were grandparents. So we did a lot of legwork in terms of research for that and trying to get everything historically accurate. And, normally doing Res Dogs, we're not a city that has prop houses. We really don't have time for fabrication. We're really finding everything in the community, Facebook Marketplace, out in the world. This was one of the only episodes where we were contacting museums to get things on loan to us. We were getting things trucked in from different states. Like, it was really a big push for both our departments. And so I guess it was about a week before we were to shoot that episode. We've been prepping it for months at this point, and I got a phone call at 11 p.m. saying that the warehouse was on fire. So art and set deck, and essentially we lost everything that we had prepped, and there was no time for production to shut down or to give us a couple days to even like get our feedback on the ground. We just had to keep going. And mind you, this is TV, so we're still like doing an episode the next morning. I'm still prepping this and that and running around, and I was like,
you're going into the vault.
yeah, we were at the vault the next
that
morning, and we looked like ghosts. I was like,
I mean, the damage was extensive. It was like
Yeah.
we had like clocks in there that were melted, like Salvador Dali style. We
melted
had,
or
like,
complete piles of ash.
everything that wasn't burned, they had kind of like really kind of drenched with the fire hoses when they were trying to put out the fire. So we couldn't even like get access to the things. We were like, oh, this isn't that bad. It's a little bit crispy, but they were like, no, you can't touch anything. It has to be kind of, cleaned or.
But also, it also housed our other stuff. So our recurring sets, like Bear's house, like all these houses that had been established for years, lost everything in that too. And we were still shooting those episodes as we were coming. And so we had to replace everything, like continuity wise. We were trying to match everything on a whim. So it was a pretty devastating moment, and I thought for sure that I was not qualified to
I knew
get
all
this
along
team
it was
back
going
on
to
the
be good.
ground.
I knew it was going to work out. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I have the most amazing team in the world, small team, but they're incredible. I love them, and they did not take a moment. They just really got out there and started making phone calls and writing these beautiful apology letters. Like, we had rented these incredible desks from the early 1900s that were in our episode that are supposed to be, that got burned, and it was devastating for them and for us. And so as an apology, we got mini ones fabricated with little plaques on them. We tried to do everything to really make it up to the people that we had sort of destroyed their stuff. And it seemed like no one was actually upset with. They felt so bad for us, and they knew that we were really trying to tell an incredibly important story. And so even the people that had loaned us stuff that we had damaged, they came in the clutch and were helping us source things. And so somehow that episode came together. But we did make sure to smudge everything before redressing that set. I was like, I don't know, you guys, I don't know if we're doing something spiritually wrong here, but we got to cleanse these things. Especially kids are laying in these beds and sitting at these desks. And so, we made sure to smudge and cleanse everything going into the rooms and just do our prayers and sing our songs like we usually do, our Res Dogs way. And I still think that it was one of the most successful and beautiful episodes that we've ever done.
Yes, all of the hard work was leading into one of the most emotionally heavy episodes we ever filmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. Also, I remember having that meeting the morning after the warehouse fire, and everybody was like, it's like, okay, can we move? Can we push forward on this? Should we? And and everybody just kind of felt like, oh, this is too important of a story, not to tell, and not to tell in this kind of really starring and stunning visual detail, to build this world as much as we can for the story. And so we kind of all just pushed forward and did that.
But then it led to
us telling that exact story after we won the Art Directors Guild Award and I guess that was a year ago or something like that.
So we got nominated for an ADG award for that episode, which was, I guess, this time last year.
Yeah.
And we went to LA and we won.
Yeah.
So...
No, I was going to say it was an amazing effort from everybody, and from, set deck and construction and scenic, the construction and scenic people. It was also our biggest episode that we had ever built things for, and they kind of had to relocate their workshop down to the location because all of their stuff had been destroyed in the fire also. And I mean, props just came through in such a huge way also, and it was just such an amazing collaboration to just everybody kind of pull it together for that. So
yeah, it was truly beautiful because we already try to have a familial element on everything that we do, but we saw everyone come together on a monumental scale. So it would live in my mind forever. So
I can't remember, how many days did we have to film each episode? It's kind of a blur.
For the third season, it was 5 days. Seasons 1 through 2, we had 4 days. Third season, 5 days.
I can't believe, it's just amazing when you watch that show. It's like we had no time and no money, and it's just such a beautiful piece. It's I don't know. And that one especially. That was hard, man. We were spread out.
Also, just logistically, we were all over an entire campus. We were in many different buildings on this huge campus, Big Cone out in Muskogee. And so it was one of the biggest like geographically. We had to like all be running around and dressing like multiple things at the same time, and the crew, it was a big haul.
Lots of
all
cry
around.
breaks.
Everyone was crying. I mean, I cried a lot. Neosha and we cried together. We were smudging each other throughout the whole thing. We're smudging all the kids as they were coming in. So it was really kind of sort of encompasses like everything that we prioritize as a crew and like a family on Res Dogs, is like making sure that those things are sound. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. And to take a question from the wonderful Mr. Joe Hernandez last week, he asked a wonderful question to our hair and makeup team is like, whenever you're not working, how do you stay inspired? What inspires your creative juices in the off time to really keep you moving forward? And I'll go down the line here, starting with you, Tafv.
Oh boy, what don't I do, Brandon? Let's see.
A lot of.
I will just say I'm an arts and crafts kid through and through. Spent my whole childhood making arts and crafts. I was an arts and crafts camp counselor for 9 years, so it's truly what I love to do. So when I'm not working, I always need to be making something. So I'm either crocheting or baking or collage, doing something crazy, I guess. There's a lot of explosive, crafty messes in different corners of my house. But yeah, I'm always also like planning like future projects, and sometimes they don't come into fruition, but it's almost like the planning it and the thinking of it and dreaming of it is almost as satisfying as doing it, because like then we'll run into work, you get a job, you're on a job for however long, and then you kind of like lose steam about something. But even just getting in that excited mindset of like, oh, I want to like start this thing or build this little thing or design this little thing, and sometimes you do it and sometimes you don't, and that's okay. But I think that's how I sort of keep my mind creatively active in between. Because I'm also get a little bit of like a lion in a cage feeling if I'm not making something. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Now, I'm not an arts and crafts person at all. Can't stand arts and crafts, so that's why we're a good team. Yeah, I think for the most part, when I finish a project, it's nice to be able to take like a little bit of a road trip and just do a drive for a couple of days or something like that, really to kind of just like, kind of like cleanse the palate, really just sort of like process the things that just happened for the past 3 months and how crazy that was, and all these, things that we got really obsessed with, and the worlds that we built, and the sort of like inside jokes and everything that you form inside this really little bubble that you get into during production, which is an amazing bubble and such a fun place to be, but also such an intense thing to walk away from after a job. So I like to kind of take a couple days and just do a drive around, something like that, just to see new things and sort of let that kind of process and recede a bit. And then I just, I'll kind of watch movies, go and, check out museums, just try to get inspired that way, actually spend time reading. I feel like watching movies when you're working on something is a little bit stressful, because there's like it's a constant reminder of you're like, oh, like I should be doing this. Like there's so many other things they have to like plan and figure out and things like that. Or is it going to be as good as this? Like, why not? So it's nice to kind of be able to be a bit more relaxed and just like refill the bank of references and the bank of inspiration and those things. So to get into it after that initial kind of road trip and that kind of thing. And taking photographs while you're out there also is always nice, just to find stuff like, different strange roadside restaurants or different kind of like Paris, Texas-esque like signs and stuff like that you find out there.
Bars in Inola, Oklahoma.
Theoretically, yes. Yeah, that could be.
Yes, if one was so inclined. Neosha?
I like to wander around and just look at things and have no agenda and just like talk to people, talk to your friends, see things. I feel like the most spark I get is when I'm talking to fellow creative people or fellow creative friends and just like, what if this happened? And what if this? And you start like riffing on each other and I don't know, I think, just talking to people and looking at things. And what's that? There's a surrealist term where the whole point, I think derive or whatever it is, it's like French, but the point is just to wander around. You're not looking for anything. You're not trying to be inspired. You're just being open and just moving your body and seeing what comes of it. And I really like that.
My job is having an earpiece in my ear all day, hearing like what's going to happen from the first AD. And then on this side, it's also like talking to the on-set dresser, talking to the set costumer, talking to the talent, So I really like to like have a month of solitude and only read and not talk to anyone, watch old movies, sit quietly and hit my vape. And like, it's so much like once you're in there, it's nonstop. And it's like 3 to 4 months of that. So I like to just doodle quietly, maybe call my mom, really, really zen off time because film is fun, but insane and really, really busy. Lots of steps. So
Yes, self-care is vitally important, everybody.
yes, take care of your feet and your mind because you will use them all day.
And your knees.
Yeah. Ooh, dog.
I was going to say, Neosha and I are kind of similar in our off time. And she came over for dinner because we live in New York and came over for dinner. And it ended up with us drawing portraits of each other, but with our toes. We're like, what if we did this, but with our toes?
We were like, what if we did this?
So we're like, yeah, we're just trying everything. And so drew portraits all night of each other with our toes.
They're pretty good.
That's behind the paywall, I think. All right. So other than feet portraits, tell me, like, what is your favorite thing that you have created, like be it a set, be it like a prop that you've created, or even a prop that you've wielded that's very unique. So let's go in reverse order. Let's start with you, Joe, and then we'll come down this way.
I don't know. It's just cool to like, you get to go in all these different worlds, Like, I didn't know anything about Oklahoma. The way I see Oklahoma is the way Sterling writes it and directs it. And I just fell in love with like all 4 of those kids and got to do Cheese's drawing. That was really cool. Stuff like that, just the real personal stuff. It's really touching. And when you make an actor happy, I don't know.
Yeah, there's an amazing collage that we won't spoil.
Oh yeah, we just did a cool collage that I made. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, nobody's seen it. We're not allowed to tell spoilers. Isn't this on the internet?
Yes, we won't. So it's right now. It's called
It's
Sensitive
flop.
Kind. It's going to be called another name in the near future. We have to play dumb about that for now until FX tells me otherwise. But yes, it's for Tim Blake Nelson's character.
There was a collage and everybody loved it. And it was really well lit once I talked to the DP.
Thank you. And Neosha?
What was the question? I'm thinking about the collage.
The favorite thing you've... I mean, I can't stop thinking about it.
Nobody can. It was a hit.
So the favorite thing you've either created or wielded, if it's something that you didn't create.
I mean, Res Dogs has such a special place in my heart, just for like sentimental reasons. I guess the answer is like things that I make with dear friends or people that become dear friends and that spark you share together, and you will always have that. And it's just whether the project is big or small. There's this other project I'm working on right now with some friends from college, and it involves these like marionette puppets, and it's just goofy because it's like 8 of us in this crammed apartment. We're like climbing all over each other and like use it, and it's a miniature set, so we're like using vape for like steam smoke, and people are like, it's fun and it's goofy, and you like make these memories with these people because like ultimately that's what it's about, right? Is like you're
Tell them who the puppet movie's about. Are you allowed to tell
I don't
them?
know. Jim Jarmusch?
Yes.
I don't know, but
A hair hero of mine,
Yeah.
Mr. Jim Jarmusch, yes.
yeah,
It's a big deal. I'm excited for it. It's a really big deal. I'm gonna come visit.
anyways, it's about people, and you're making memories with people, and you're creating worlds with people, and it's like good medicine. It feels good. It's putting good out there, and hopefully it inspires other people to do the same thing. And that's, yeah.
I love that. And then on a more micro level, just a little creation of yours that I'd love to see you create was this the little figures that you would make for Bucky on Rest.
I just made the crown. I did not make the figures. That's a very common misconception.
But also the crown was dope. Brandon?
I think actually one of the sets that we made for this show that we're doing right now is probably one of my favorite sets, which I won't talk about now because of the secrecy component to it. But that'll be just kind of a cliffhanger for folks to wonder about. But in terms of, I think, Reservation Dogs, Mabel's house was something that...
Yeah, you just told my answer.
I knew that I was going to steal your answer on that. And I was... Mabel's house was one of my favorite things that we've created, season 2. And I won't say all of it because I'll leave some for Tafv to explain also. But I think that it was really special because the scene was so emotionally charged that we were going to be shooting in the space. And I think it kind of like kickstarted this philosophy that we kind of took with us for the rest of the show also, and that I kind of try to bring with me to every show now, including TV Glow and this current one, et cetera, is, just that like, even if the objects that you put into the space can have an emotional charge to them also. And, it can be meaningful for the actors, and it can be meaningful for the crew, and it can be meaningful for the director and for everybody else who's in the space also. And, for Mabel's house, we kind of really focused on putting these emotionally charged objects in the set, and objects that meant something to the people who were kind of going to be physically in the space, to sort of create this world for them. And I kind of try to bring that with me, or that lesson, to everything that I work on now. It's like, okay, even if it's not something that's going to read through the camera, if it's something that's going to matter to one person, or that sort of a thing, then it's worthwhile to go the extra mile to kind of put yourself through hell to get it there, and that sort of thing. And I think for Reservation Dogs, that was a big priority, was just, if it means something to anybody in the community, then it's worth putting in there, because it's so meaningful for that, and that works. And I know I did steal part of your answer, but you'll explain it better than I did. So nothing. So yeah.
So yeah, that's set. So, I don't know how many people have seen it, but Mabel's, that episode, Alora's grandmother's passing away, and it's happening in what like we call in our community, like the right way. Elders are around singing, there's prayers happening, the family's there, everyone's eating, spending the night. And for me personally, and I thought, probably for a lot of people on this crew, there was family members who we didn't get the opportunity to do that with them for whatever circumstance. I didn't get to do that with my father, and there was a lot of people on our crew that had wished they had been able to have that experience with the person they loved who had passed. And so I thought it was really important that maybe this was our second chance to do it. And so we basically collected a lot of items from our crew members, from someone that they had loved, and put them in the scene. And some things, were super silly. Like my my auntie's mom had this what she called the hunk wall, which was clippings from the 80s and 90s of men she thought were hunky, like Bon Jovi. And this thing was like super faded. It was like sun bleached, old, but this hunk wall was
a lot of Bon Jovi pictures.
A lot of Bon Jovi pictures in there, and some like old pizza coupons too. But we're like, you know what? This is all, even though these are silly, not only does it build the Mabel character, really, you're still trying to build a character of this woman who you don't really know much about her. So, but it's also, there's something they've hung on to for a long time because their mom loved it. And so, we had pieces of, Neosha's mom, her beautiful posters and artwork. And that room, even though it was small, it was incredibly charged, like you said, with a lot of emotion in these objects. And I do think that carries through a screen, whether you know what's happening or not on the other side. I do think that vibration is very strong. And we did that a lot on Res Dogs, but this was sort of one of the biggest and one of the first that we realized that this was sort of the foundation of what we were trying to do with this whole show. So yeah, that was a very special episode. I did cry a lot in that room, and at one point I wouldn't let anyone come in, and so it was.
Yeah, I'm still emotionally devastated from that episode.
But yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite episodes.
It truly was one of the crowning achievements that we've done. So thank you everyone for that. And then to kind of shift gears here, what would you say, I'll go back down the line here, starting with you, Tafv. What's one of the most surprising things about your job? Whether it's something unexpected or something that it's just a true joy about it that, people might not know about your job.
I think the thing that I love most about set decoration, and I think this is a thing that keeps me in it. If this wasn't part of it, I don't even know that I would be doing it. But the personal connection that you have with the people whose worlds you're building is one of the most satisfying things that you can do. And I feel like we're incredibly lucky to be working on shows that even have those tethers, because there's a lot of shows, like NCIS or, who's to say? But I don't know, like we're working on shows where it's like, okay, they're based on real people with their real family members around and their real friends. And you get to hear stories and they're giving you objects and they want to take you in their world with them. And they're putting a lot of trust in you also. And it's a big responsibility and you never want to get it wrong and you never want to disrespect someone and you always want to honor what they're sharing with you. And I think being able to incorporate that in a set I worked in fashion, like I said, for 10 years where I never thought about that ever. It was a very recyclable industry and it's working on like magazines and stuff. And so when I came here and realized that this was not only part of the job, but maybe the biggest part of the job for me and the part that I loved the most, I didn't really know that working like that was possible until I came here and did Res Dogs. So I think that's the most surprising aspect of my job that I didn't realize would end up being the biggest part of my job.
It's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is really unique, and that is something also that kind of like Reservation Dogs sparked an awareness of that. And we also where it is such a direct connection to the community, and even the show working now is such a direct connection to the community in a way that makes it more thrilling, and that makes it even more important to get everything exactly right and to get everything, to tell the story in the right way and to really kind of honor that connection. But I think the most surprising thing for me probably, or I guess maybe one thing that I think about a lot is one of my favorite parts is just the research. Like I love to like actually kind of just learn about, okay, what are the spaces that we're trying to recreate? What are the spaces we're trying to create? And, why, and I'm constantly wanting to take pictures of different things like that and figure out, okay, why is it that like, this is the spot that somebody puts their bag down when they walk in the front door? Or like, what is like on somebody's refrigerator, like in their home? And like, is it a Bible quote? Is like, what cereal's on top of the refrigerator? Those type of things. People in the art department do think I'm pretty obsessed with refrigerators and refrigerator graphics, but it's an important component of any home. So I think it's just that type of, kind of like discovery or that kind of like research that I love and kind of figuring that out. And also just the degree of, care that goes into like all of the smaller details. Like, I think in college, the only time that really anybody brought up production design to me was one of my teachers was like, oh, like if you get really bored and you're watching a movie, just concentrate on something that's like, unimportant. It's like, I don't know, the lamps in the background or something like that. And now I'm like, the lamps in the background or something I would fight you over. But yeah, so just that and just like how much thought goes into all those details also and into those things. And
You think way too much about that hurricane shade, man. Neosha.
The most surprising part is that we have to make the fake vomit.
Which we saw the other night in mass quantities.
Yeah.
That was specialty vomit, though. That had to go through a whole thing. When we make vomit, we put it in their mouth and they spit it out. But that was like a rig.
I remember the first time that came up and they're like, okay, like we're going to make vomit now. And I was like, what? Yeah.
Was that when Cheese ate too many gummies and threw up? Yeah. I forgot the question.
The most surprising thing other than vomit about your job.
I don't know. I just feel it's not like a surprise. I just feel really proud and lucky. I get to like go into weird worlds, like Horror Story. I was in a 50s circus, and Tammy Faye, I was an 80s evangelist, and now I'm a res dog, man. It's just every day's a surprise. You never know what you're going to do. When I went to work, there was a baboon. It's wild. That was surprising.
You get to live a lot of lives in this world.
Yeah, you do. So that's cool.
And on that note, yeah, Joe, you touched on it a little bit earlier. Working in film is one of the most rewarding things you can do ever, but it's also incredibly hard. So, going down the line here, we'll start again with you, Tafv. Like, talk about like the hard part of working in film, even though it is incredibly rewarding at the end of the day.
Okay, what's the hard part? Well, you really give up sleep, eating, any sort of regular human cycle of any kind. The hard part, okay, for me personally, I'm not a logistical person, but unfortunately, I run a department. So.
I have your driver's license that I send to you constantly.
I've called Dylan now 7 times to ask what I have to do because I'm getting pulled over. I guess logistically, the hard part for me is I do have to manage a lot of people and budget and schedules. I would say that's not my strong suit. I'm definitely better at the creative aspect. So that's something I really had to learn in real time, starting from Res Dogs and Fancy Dance and this. I think I've gotten a lot better, but that was the hardest learning curve for me. The hardest part, God, I don't know. I kind of love it though. I mean, we're at a very, masochistic career choice here, all of us. But I guess none of us would be doing it if we didn't love it. And somehow that worked for us in some ways. Like I love working really hard to the point where I'm so tired, I'm maybe crying in my car. But I don't know, but I do love working in this industry, especially with all these people. So I really can't complain too much.
Yeah, I think the hard part is that you have to love it to get through it in a way. Like it's so much time, it's so much thought, it's so much energy that you put into this one thing, and then you kind of, well, that's the hard part also, is that you kind of put everything that you have into this thing for however long, however many months it is. And if you don't kind of love it, if you don't find a reward in that, either in the hard work or in creating, the film or creating a thing, then it's I think it's hard for people to do that. But you end up putting everything into this one thing for, however long, and then you kind of are just like, oh, and then it's over like that. And then you kind of just pack it up and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go to wherever the next thing is or go home or whatnot, or just not go and spend 12 hours a day with, the bunch of maniacs that I kind of spend 12 hours a day with.
Deep mourning period after a show, I will say.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the hard part of it also, is that you have this kind of mourning period, or you have this sort of thing afterwards where you're like, oh man, we just had all these like jokes. We just had all these things that we were talking about all the time. And we're like talking about the smallest detail of this thing. And everybody was so on the same page, on the same team, getting into it. And then, that kind of bubble evaporates, and then you sort of move on to the next ones, or move on to whatever you're pursuing after that. So I think there's an element of sadness to that as well, and an element where, kind of have to figure out your own personal rhythm of how do you, get out of that and then get into the next thing, or get out of that and get back into, your quote unquote real life, and then move on to the next thing if you want to. So that's certainly a challenge. But, yeah.
Neosha.
One of the hard symptoms of this job is just that you don't really go in the outside world for 3-4 months. Like you miss birthday parties and you miss family things, and that can be hard. Just for that, because it's so intense and you're working so many hours. And then I guess a hard part of the job itself, for me personally, is probably the continuity aspect of props, because you're almost never shooting, in timeline wise. So you have to, like, you might shoot this scene that like, oh, this prop doesn't even exist anymore at this point. It's already been smashed. And then you start with it getting smashed, and then you start with it and then go to before it gets smashed. And you're like, and remembering just keeping everything in line like that for my brain is kind of hard, but it's doable. It's fun. You take notes and you try to like keep a line with it. But yeah, I think that's my answer.
What's the hardest part? Is that the question? Like scenes in a restaurant with like 50 people eating food over and over and over and over and over. That's really hard for the props department.
Because think about everything in that scene, anything anybody is touching, background people eating, they're drinking, they're dancing, they've got phones out, they're like all of that you're doing. And so when they go, okay, cut, reset, you have to run around and put it back exactly how it was. So if someone walks across the room with this, you have to go grab it and put it back on the spot and refill drinks and switch out food plates. And you're like, and there's 2 of us. Yeah.
And you do your best to make it like reasonably appetizing, but if you take after take after take, your coffee's going to be ice cold, your burger's going to be ice cold, and a pro actor barely eats, and somebody's really green when they just start shoveling food on rehearsal.
Because you have to do that every single time.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a scene for 2 hours, you're going to be eating like 12, 20 burgers. I don't know, like just baby bites. Bird bites.
Please stop writing ice cream cones and sandwiches, because the continuity is awful.
And then by the end of the scene, the actor's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't write it.
All right, here. We've got a great crowd here, so I'm going to have one last question here, and then we're going to turn it over to the Q&A here. So to close out here, going down the line again, is there a great piece of advice that you've gotten in your career that you'd like to impart with the people here?
Go out of order for this one.
Okay, you can pass, and we can come back to you here. Lightning round.
I don't know if it's really advice, but like a week ago, I heard the quote, what is it? It's luck is preparation meets opportunity. And I really liked that, because you can't really control luck, but you can be as prepared as you can for when the opportunity comes for you to say yes and leap on it and jump on it. And I really liked that. Like, just opportunity will eventually come, and just try to do your best to be ready for it, to be able to say yes enthusiastically.
It makes me sound like a psycho, but I did see a refrigerator magnet with that phrase on it in an estate sale, and I bought
That's
it for
where I
myself.
saw it.
No, it's on my fridge. Best piece of advice. I think, somewhere, I'm sure there's some eloquent quote that I'm forgetting, but, I think probably people who just told me to kind of start, just even if you can get on set or just get into or any kind of a role in production or any kind of a thing and start to figure out, oh, this is actually kind of what I'm interested in, and I want to do this, or I want to start working toward this, or I want to start, just building toward that. Yeah.
Okay, this might be contrary, but I do think that the best advice that I've gotten as of recently in the past couple of years was, at the end of the day, this is just a film or a TV show, and we are here to have fun and make art. And I think all of us take our jobs very seriously. You're hating this answer, I can tell.
I definitely didn't say that.
Not you. But I feel like we've all been at the point where we feel like absolutely like devastated by something, or we're so consumed by the minute things that it's hard to zoom out and be like, I'm so grateful to be doing this as a job with these people. And we are just here making art. We're all like in our own craft making art. And I think that, it's a stressful job and it's hard to remember that sometimes. But I think when you can do that, it does make the whole process a lot more enjoyable.
Advice. Mine's more like, once you get a set job and you're wearing a walkie, you push the button, then you talk, then you let go of the button, then everybody can hear you. Another thing is, if you can see the lens, you're on camera. So if you're filming, you're in the wrong spot. If you're setting up, you're probably in the wrong spot still. And just be very aware. You can trip on C-stands, on cables. Costumes has a wagon. We have chair carts. There's just stuff everywhere. I know you get tired, but be as attentive as possible. That's my best advice. And good shoes.
That was incredible.
Thanks.
Yeah, just hard work, be a good person. That's a lot of it.
That's a big one too. You're working with these people and you're crawling all over each other and you're there for hours and hours and hours and you're maybe hungry and tired, and just like be nice to people.
Crack a joke. Keep it light.
All right, now we're going to turn it over to the audience. So ask a question, and then I will respond it back to the panel here and for our recording devices, and we'll go from there. So, questions?
Yes.
No.
Please.
Okay, so how do you recreate the closeness, the familial aspect that we have as a team here that has been working together for years?
Well, I will say that I think it's particularly special in this environment because Sterling fostered a very casual environment for filmmaking, which is not normal, because normally there's like a hierarchy. There's people you're not allowed to look at or talk to or this and that. That was completely evaporated when we started Res Dogs. And I think everyone felt comfortable to bring their own ideas to the table, to be communicating with, a DP or a PA. Everyone was free to talk freely, ask questions freely, which I think is not totally normal on regular film shoots. And I do think that instantly sort of created a very nice familial atmosphere for all of us. And then, working together for so long, how could you not be best friends?
I think that is a huge part of it, though. Honestly, Sterling did and does create this atmosphere where, the hierarchy gets kind of flattened in a way where everybody feels comfortable talking to everybody. Everybody feels comfortable laughing with everybody. Everybody feels comfortable kind of joking around with everybody else. And that just creates this environment where people, feel more creative and feel more invested in what they're doing and feel more invested in the film they're making or the show they're making in that way. Yeah, and then, I think other than that, I think it's kind of important when you're putting together a department or a film crew or anything, just to, make sure that you're not only kind of talking during like the work hours. Like, it's important to like go and like, see a movie or go and like just do a thing, or just like, not every night. But just kind of get those kind of experiences where you're not just talking about logistics, or you're not just talking about, oh, this mountain we're climbing up. You're also kind of building a bit of like a social kind of repertoire and things like that.
We two-stepped every Tuesday during Res Dogs, just because we had to for our sanity, but also we wanted to be with each other.
It's a lot of peer pressure to two-step on Tuesdays.
But Sterling has made like a summer camp, and it's magical. And I'm so spoiled when I go home and make like a normal movie with jerks. It's like, I only want to work for Mr. Harjo. He's like, it's not complicated. This is easy. Let's have fun. Come on. What's the big deal? Yeah,
and we have actors that come in from the four corners of the earth and just say how special this set is. So it's and this was by design. Like, and you too can do it. It takes a little bit more time and love to do so. All right. Any other question? Yes, Rick.
I mean, I don't know why people are the way they are. I would just say usually your director sets the tone. They're your leader. They're the captain of the ship. Everybody has one purpose. And some like to yell and intimidate. Some like to foster friendship. It's just read the room. And also, with somebody as big as Clint Eastwood, like Meryl Streep's directors talk about, she is the captain and sets the tone. Jamie Lee Curtis, I did a show with her. She walked in, learned everybody's name, shook hands. It's usually dictated by someone at the top, what the vibe's going to be. And if you're going to have a good time or a bad time pretty quickly. So it's just the luck of the draw.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it starts at the top in terms of how a set runs.
There's no time for organization.
All right, that is a great question. How do you stay organized in this crazy world?
Don't look at me for that. I hire a very good coordinator who takes care of that for me.
Yeah. I have a natural love of organization, which again sounds a little crazy, I know. But so for me, it's like when I'm thinking through a problem, I'm usually like, okay, I'm going to make a list of like all these different elements of the problem that I'm thinking through, and kind of like figure out how to like do each of those things until they're all done. And I think it's like you can kind of get overwhelmed with, okay, we need to create this gigantic set, or there's a whole movie, or there's a whole show, there's, or any department, we need to figure out this entire thing. And I've heard two things that were actually pretty useful to me that I think about often. One is a friend was just saying, who's a costume designer, saying, it's about like bite-sized pieces in priority order. So it's like about like that sort of thing. And then the other thing is like, it's about like continually taking like small chunks of like gigantic things and figuring those out until you figured out like the gigantic thing itself. That's it. So it's really about the ability to look at like large, seemingly very intimidating or seemingly, impossible to figure out problems and just saying, okay, how can I start this? Let me start on these small details. Let me start on like just the initial questions and trying to just move your way methodically through that until you've gotten to a good point. But organization, props is all about organization. So that's...
We have Elliot is our truck guy who his job is to be on the truck all day and prepping the next scene for the next day and like putting things into meticulous bags and labels and all of that. Like Joe and I just kind of get there on the day and
Dump
like
the bag out.
are ruining everything and we're just throwing things around and then yeah.
No, but you Ziploc everything. Every character has a Ziploc bag with like their keys, their glasses, their ring, their phone. Then you have a big bin that's like Ethan's van. So he has a van. Each character gets a bin. Each set gets a bin. You have like a shelf on the truck where it's food, glassware, plateware. You have a shelf of like eye protection, ear protection, anything you can think of on the truck. And label everything. Take as many photos as you can. You never know when you're going to be like, we have to shoot the rest of this scene in like 2 months. And we share like a notes app and stuff, and you're never chronological, so it's just like meticulous notes. And your script supervisor is your best friend.
Shout out Tiffany.
Yeah, Tiffany. Every single department, like all she does is get questions all day. Like, what did we do last week? Please help.
What did this character have in their pocket for this one scene at this one
What
time?
arm did he have his bag on? Sunglasses on the head here, stuff like that.
When does he take his sunglasses off? On what line?
Right, and that's another thing is like...
Because the actors are just they're acting. They're doing whatever feels right to them. And our job is to like, okay.
And nobody shoots just like one master shot of a scene. So you have to like watch them.
But also it's just each person's different with organizations. Like how do you stay organized and then apply that to your job, whatever works for you, because everybody's got different brains for that,
But we do have one person who's his
very
job,
organized.
Yes. And he comes by the cart and bless his heart, he almost has a heart attack like every night. We're creative.
And I can say personally, I have psychopath level iPhone notes. They can have multiple notes depending on the project. And then the more important thing is I put fire emojis by it. And then I make sure I get to that one first and then go down the line. All right. Yes. On an ensemble level, excellent question. Is there any way to help out actors as well?
I would just say my job is to make sure the director and the actor are allowed to do their job. And I never want to overwhelm that person with any note or, it's just gauging. My job is to support them. Their job's not to support me. You know what I mean? That's just kind of what you signed up for. So it's the actors should do whatever their process is to get into character. If somebody's awful with hand props, you guide them through the insert shot of them tying their shoes as much as you can. Some of them are great with them. It's just, I don't think it's up to the actor to make it easy, not make it easy on the crew, but like, I couldn't like get up there and cry and then laugh and then make a margarita and just hit all these emotional beats in one day. So it's just, some people want me right next to them and some people don't want to see me at all. It's up to the actor, I would say. It's not the actor's job to, I like when they're nice. Tell them to be nice. That's cool.
All right. Bex, did you have a question?
This is sort of an interdepartmental question. What is something that a location department can do to make your life easier? And what is something that we do that makes you crazy and wish that we understood your needs better?
I'm going to say running water.
Yeah. Inside baseball question here first. What can the locations department do to make your lives better? And then also, what do you want to fight them about?
Since we're like cooking things, if there's a kitchen and there's no running water, we're like, that's really the only thing I can think of. That's like.
I used to work in locations, so I think they have one of the hardest jobs in the world. Because when you're in locations, your job is infrastructure. Like, where's the bathroom going to be? Where's the green room going to be? Where's the trailers going to land? Where can we park? There's just so many pieces. And as long as that's been thought about, I'm happy with them. It's just so hard. You're like cleaning bathrooms and throwing away everybody's trash. And for whatever reason, crew members lose their mind and just toss this on set. I don't really have issues with locations unless there's just no planning. Like if the bathroom's not there yet, it's like, this is an issue. But, just think about infrastructure and make sure you know where everybody's supposed to be and supposed to go. Same thing for the ADs.
Where do you fall on leaving vegetables?
Oh, set deck and props should throw away food. If we have food in a scene, we should always throw it away. That's on us. That's not on you guys. As far as like the crew members' trash, it sucks, but somebody has to clean it up because nobody will do it themselves. But I just feel like if we cook, everything has to be tossed. You can't, at least for us, because somebody might put it in their mouth on camera. They might improv. So it's really up to the set deck and props department to throw away food at the end of the night.
And also, although it is tricky, also locations department, don't be overzealous about trash because it could be a hot set that is dressed.
That's another thing. Don't throw away the set, please. Because like the thousands of beer cans at the cop party, it's like they may want them back. We may need them to redo, or like the food we have at the diner every night. It just sucks. It can be a wasteful industry. If you don't use it, you're going to throw it away because you never know when an A-list actor eats rotten fruit or something. They be improv and putting stuff in their mouth. You really have to watch them. Yeah, seriously, they're in the zone, and it's like, oh, a toothbrush. I'm supposed to brush my teeth. It's like, wait,
I guess I'll just say for us, because we dress a lot of homes, we go into a lot of homes that are already, walking to someone's house, and then we're clearing everything out. And I think that it is helpful when locations does set some like very clear boundaries with the homeowner, because sometimes they'll, wander in halfway through and they get a little alarmed that like, it's just they're very precious about their home, which is natural. But we've had instances where like people have come in to the sets that, it's their house. They're not really supposed to be there. And then it causes a lot of chaos. So
I feel like everyone's just working some things out that may or may not have come up at some point recently or in a previous show. But I feel like locations wise, I tend to work with a location manager, and, we'll go out and find the actual locations that we're going to shoot in, those things. So for me, I just love it when the location manager gets as into it as I am, where I'm like, okay, here are all the references for like what we're looking for and like the spaces we're trying to find. And like, I also want you to be artistically invested in like finding these right spaces and getting into them. And same deal, like, down to the scouts in the location department too, that are actually going out and taking the photographs. Like, it's nice to see a sense of enthusiasm about like, oh man, I found this house that was really good. And like, it had this thing that we're looking for. And like, or here's an alternate idea that wasn't exactly like the reference, but like, kind of tells the story in another way also. And throwing those ideas out there, just taking those photographs and also just taking good quality photographs, since those are going to go like all the way through me to the director to see, to everybody else, to studio presentations, etc. So it's always nice to have the good quality scouting photographs also. But.
And also, don't show a production designer something you can't get.
Oh yeah, that also. Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right, up here. Okay, if someone's new to an area, how do you tell them what's useful and what's not?
In terms of like somebody who's new to the department and like that sort of thing. Yeah, I think it's part of being a department head that when you are hiring somebody who's in the department, you're kind of evaluating their skills and their weaknesses and the things that they could be better at, and then putting them in a position where they can succeed. So you want to always kind of make sure that you're like, okay, if I'm hiring this person and they're really great at logistics, or they're really great at set design, or they're really great at this one specific thing, I'm going to make sure that I put them in a role to use that and to kind of get better at that and continue to kind of exercise that talent, instead of asking them to do something that I know that they need more work on, or that they're going to kind of have a harder time executing in this way, because it's all like it's kind of their success is also like our success in that way. Like if they kind of fail, then that's a failure for everybody, and if they kind of succeed, then that's a success for everybody. So I think it's part of like the thing that you learn as a department head is to just to be able to assess, what people can do well, and to be able to put them in those positions where they can do it well, and kind of aid the overall effort, the overall machine. So,
I second that. When I break down like an episode or one line, I definitely go through it. I'm like, okay, like I know Stacy loves this, so I'm going to give her this, and so it's like being mindful of how you're going to make the whole thing happen and put people in the places that they're going to like. Succeed and make the vision come true.
All right. Any more questions? Yes, sir. Okay, so to distill that, comment on just the choreography of it all coming together as a team. There's just pitfalls of that.
Yeah, I mean, no, anybody go for it.
I would just say it's rare that everything goes really well. It's like you have so much to accomplish in one day, but in like movies are a gift because you do like 2 pages a day for a month and then you finish the job. TV is like 10 pages a day for 5 months. But the further you get in a series, the more everybody knows who's supposed to be there, who's doing what. And you just kind of, like last night, the entire crew was in a diner while it rained, and it was like 100 people in a tiny room, cheek to cheek. But we all know each other, and we know what we're supposed to be doing, and we're all really polite and apologetic as we crawl on top of each other. It's great when it is a dance and it flows. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you step back and you see the whole thing, everyone's focused and doing
I would say your first AD, while your director sets the tone, your first AD is the one in your ear, and he's dictating everything to you about what's going to happen. And when you have a great first AD that keeps you informed, everybody knows what's going on and knows where to stand, not stand, where to move, where to put stuff. So shout out to all the good first ADs who keep us all in line and aware of what everybody's supposed to be doing. That helps it be a dance, I guess. Yes. Comedy of errors, yes.
Yes, and then even the best laid plans can go south. And if they do, life still finds a way. Just focus on what you can control and then take the 50,000-foot view, see all the different solutions that are around you. So don't freak out, don't panic. There's a solution around you. Improv. All right, we've got time for one more question here, if there's one queued up. Okay, well, anyone else? Or we can double dip. All right, come in hot. Okay. I can speak firsthand on this here, so I'm stealing time from the panel. Okay, so we are fortunate to work with two wonderful actors, Mr. Ethan Hawke and Miss Jeannie Triplehorn. And yesterday we had a tech scout for our third block of filming, and it was the very first time Jeannie Triplehorn had ever been on a tech scout. And our line producer made her a green safety vest that said it was my first tech scout. And so yes, because she wanted to inhabit the space that she was acting in. And so that would just be something where we vocalized to production that yes, I would like to be on a tech scout. I would like to see the space that I would be acting in. And then Mr. Ethan Hawke, if he's not on set, he is on the tech scout. He wants to be where he's acting. He wants to be able to kind of be inspired by the location. He'll like pick up a giant rock. He's like, oh, I could pick this up in the scene. It's going to be great. And it's just, yes, it's just vocalizing to production. And chances are good that, yes, you could at least be on tech scout or get to visit set or something like that.
But with someone like Miss Triplehorn, she's so thorough. Like the day before she even filmed, we did a still photo with her. I went to her trailer and I presented cigarettes. I presented her rings, and we talked about, we had a smoking lesson because she had quit years ago. And every morning we talk about specifically a watch or sunglasses, and they know their characters better than us. And it's just really incredible. Some actors walk in and really want to like discuss everything they're going to have. And some are just like, whatever, just hand it to me, So you just kind of gauge, as far as the space, I don't know, but what they put in their hand, some are different. But she's really, really thorough and knows her character inside and out, so I have to be on my toes.
Yeah, I think in terms of the space, I mean, we've had actors come in who want to, it's different with each actor, but sometimes people actually are very invested and want to know, okay, this is what my character's bedroom would look like, or this sort of thing. And so you want to make sure that the same as you're making sure the director is happy with things and other folks are kind of checking off the same thing. It's like, okay, well, did we kind of talk to the actor and make sure that they're feeling good about their character and that sort of thing. I mean, it's never happened to me, but I have heard stories of other actors kind of walking on set and be like, oh, I don't think my office would be like this at all. And then depending on who that is, that's like a totally different, ball of wax to deal with, that sort of thing. But yeah, so I think it's all about that and, understanding like how on the same page everybody is about the character and about these things and making sure that all these people are kind of have a moment to process the space and to get into it before you're actually standing there with the camera with 75 people standing around and doing that. So, yeah.
All right. With love and gratitude, thank you so much for coming today, everybody. And thank you to our wonderful panelists here today. And then one quick announcement for anyone that is a repeat guest here. Our panel next week was going to be on costumes. They are sadly unavailable, so we're going to be swapping that out with freelancing in Oklahoma, which I will not be monitoring. I will be on said panel. So yes, but we will be, we'll just inform everyone online of the costumes rescheduling here. So, all right, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.